All right, so a baby's on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a slide that we have up here. It's about some different resources that are on the web.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn more about today's webinar at pregnancy.org, and there's also years and years worth of content and great experts in all the different content matter.
Mm-hmm.
Something else you've got to think about, which is on one of the slides, is choosing a name. There are all sorts of different baby name sites on the web. There's one that we like here, the babynameregistry.info. And for those of you, go ahead.
And I was going to say, there's also another one, a good friend of mine, Jenny Beard. I think you probably remember Jenny. She has the baby name wizard. That's also another good one.
And for those of you who like candy content about other pregnant celebrities, there's celebritybabies.info.
Mm-hmm.
And there are all sorts of resources that you can go around the web to find gear and to find information about gear and to get information in just not a traditional retail way where you can really get the right feedback. And
right.
Molly rightly said earlier that word of mouth is such a big component of shopping.
Yes,
and
it is.
We call it here at Baby Age word of mom because a mom's recommendation is probably worth at least 5 or 6 stars right out of the gate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they know how things are going to work, not work. I mean, they're not shy about telling you about something if it doesn't work at all.
So this is when we get to, we're through the printed material of this presentation, and this is a time when our attendees can ask questions. There's one question that's queued up, and the question is posed as, what is the effect of this, and this is directed to you, Molly, what are your thoughts on some of the newer early stage pregnancy tests? So I guess the tests are getting to the point where you can try them even earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Do any of your experts have any thoughts on those?
They do, and we also have several different articles about that. And I was hoping you'd have the slide with some of our other articles I had given to Erica, too, just for a quick reference for folks. But some of them are really sensitive, and even some of them are the cheaper ones you can get, like at CVS and Walmart. Again, test twice. And if you get the same result twice, chances are it's pretty good. If you're still not believing it, go to the doctor or wait a week too. I mean, blood tests are always definitive as well. So, but the early pregnancy tests, they're just getting more and more sensitive as things go along.
And we have another question queued. What can you do to help subside heartburn? So obviously you can take over-the-counter products like Tums or Rolaids, but are there any other thoughts?
We have some great answers by our midwife on that, but typically speaking, try to stay away from spicy foods. I personally love spicy foods, but if you know certain foods are going to give you what they affectionately call agita or indigestion or heartburn, try not to eat those, typically speaking. But so there's some over-the-counter. Again, anything that you're going to ingest or eat or take, clear with your healthcare provider first.
Okay, we have another question queued up, and can either people find this resource on your website, or are there other organizations that help identify local midwives and have some sort of a rating system?
Yes, I believe we have a link to that on our site, but I believe it is midwives.org, but let me just take a quick look here. No, fine, hang on.
I guess that's are midwives in general, is that a profession where there's a certification, or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's an absolute, you get a degree for it. And if you go to, it's C as in Charlie, F as in Frank, midwifery, which is spelled M as in Mary, I, D as in David, W, I, F as in Frank, ERY.org. They have a whole listing and what midwives do and how you can find one, and then the Internet Directory of Midwives, which is several different sites you can go to, like the Midwives Alliance of North America, American College of Nurse Midwives, midwifeinfo.com, Childbirth at Home. There's several. So.
And then a follow-on question to that. through your experience, have you ever heard problems about getting reimbursed through insurance for midwives, or are midwives typically covered?
Typically, and you'd think they would be because they're cheaper than your OBGYN, people still struggle with that. So one of the things, if you're planning and starting, if you're not pregnant yet, contact your insurance company and say, hey, if I use a midwife that's through a hospital, is that covered? Certainly the ones at home I don't believe are. They should be, but I don't believe they are still. Many midwives are still struggling to get recognized and to have the rights that they deserve. And our personal expert, Cynthia Flynn, is in Washington doing just that. She's a huge advocate for midwifery, and she's doing great work there. The best advice I have is, if you're already pregnant or you're planning, check with your insurance agencies and say, I'm going to be planning on using this hospital or this birthing center, and I'm using, this midwife. And again, like in the Twin Cities when I used to live in Minnesota, the midwife practice that I went to, the person who owned the practice, the head was a doctor, and he was married to the head midwife, and they worked together. And he let his midwives do pretty much everything that they could do outside of what a doctor needed to do. And that was covered under insurance. So I think it just depends state to state, and it depends on the insurance, unfortunately.
Well, we've exhausted our questions here, and I think that this was a great presentation today. And I want to thank you very much for joining this presentation today. Again, for more information, this presentation will be available at facebook.com/babyage, youtube.com/babyage. I suspect this will be available at some point on pregnancy.org.
Sure.
And again, we want to thank everybody for showing up today and continue the ideas. We'll continue to look for experts in areas that deal with pregnancy, childbirth, and children in their gear.
Right.
Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you very much for having me.